Hello, I'm Grin, welcome to this video. Well, one of the very many things that disappointed me about Star Wars Episode 8 was the way they treated Phasma. She was a character, I believe, with a great deal of potential, but unfortunately Star Wars Episode 7 did absolutely nothing with her despite a lengthy advertising campaign, and then Star Wars Episode 8 went on to do even less with her. Which is why I suppose Disney sat down and thought, my gosh, this character really needs a backstory fleshed out. And that's why today in Book Club, we're taking a look at Phasma. So, Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson is essentially what you get if you cross 1001 Arabian Nights with Mad Max and, I suppose, throw in a splash of Star Wars. The novel is set before Episode 7 and follows the interrogation of a Resistance fighter by a character known as Cardinal, who is essentially Phasma's predecessor. He's not too happy about being Phasma's predecessor, and so he's looking for dirt on Phasma. The Resistance fighter has dirt on Phasma, and if she keeps talking, she believes she'll stay alive. I really enjoyed both factions of this story. The framing device following the interrogation was really interesting, and it was cool to see the Resistance fighter trying to draw out the interrogation further and build a camaraderie and look for a way to escape, and all the while, the actual story she was telling was an interesting insight into Phasma, though unfortunately the character was sadly wasted. But despite this, the story that Dawson weaves is far more interesting than any of the uses of her in the actual films. It was really cool to see what drives Phasma. It was interesting to see that she's not really a true believer, but instead entirely out for herself, and I really hope that if Phasma is brought back in Episode 9, or gets her own standalone movie since it seems everyone else is, they actually continue with these motivations. The novel does put a lot of time into telling us that she's not really a perfect soldier, so it would be disappointing if this motivation was discarded. And the reason that I mentioned Mad Max was probably somewhat of an influence in this novel is because Parnassus, the planet Phasma comes from, is very much post-apocalyptic, and a good deal of the story takes place in a desert, which involves tribal-style warriors wearing remnants of the civilization that has collapsed as armor and weaponry, and even includes some vehicular-based combat in vehicles that were not really meant for war, that have now been dressed up for that very purpose, with spikes and scrap metal and whatnot. So I would not be the least bit surprised if Dawson somewhat took some inspiration from especially Mad Max Fury Road, or just Mad Max in general. Is this a bad thing? No, not really. It just gave me a bit of a chuckle. The only real downside to the novel is it's fairly predictable. There were no real twists and turns, and nothing that happened really surprised me. But that said, I still did thoroughly enjoy it. It gives us an interesting look into a corner of the Star Wars universe that we've never really seen before. And even without the framing device of it being told through an interrogation on a Star Destroyer, if this wasn't a Star Wars novel, and what was going on Parnassus wasn't really tied to the overall Star Wars universe, I think I still would have thoroughly enjoyed it. So I do suggest you read it. And so I suppose, if you're a giant Phasma fan, I guess I have to ask why she's not really done anything, but if you like the idea of Phasma, and wish there was a bit more to the character, this is a novel for you. And with all of that said and done, thanks for watching, and as always, until next time, I have been and still am Grim Grindle.